Hey guys, welcome back to Mo's Game Table. Today we're going to take a look inside Prelude to Revolution, Russia's Descent into Anarchy, 1905 to 1917. This is a game designed by Mike Wilner and is published by Compass Games. This is a follow-on game to the original by Marco Putre, which was Prelude to Rebellion. Mike Wilner was inspired by that design and decided to make another historical board game using that system. This time, it's going to explore the years leading up to the Russian Revolution from 1905 to 1917, as the title states. So let's take a look at the back of the box and see what this game is all about. Prelude to Revolution is a two-player card-driven game that immerses players in the turbulent years leading up to the Russian Revolution, one of the most consequential events of the 20th century. The game is divided into three broad historical eras: the years of turmoil, 1905 to 1913, the Great War, 1914 to 1916, and the Collapse, 1917. Players will cope with impactful events, a constantly shifting political landscape, and an ever-increasing level of chaos and anarchy disrupting their plans. Smart play, good planning, and some luck will be needed. This is the second game in the Prelude series, based on the thoroughly enjoyable system first published in Prelude to Rebellion. Many of the system's innovative mechanics are leveraged, as well as some new ones added. You can see an example of the map and the counters, as well as the cards over here. For components, we have a 22 by 34 inch mounted map, 4 custom scoring dice, 6 six-sided dice, 136 9/16 inch counters, 150 red and 150 blue mobilization cubes, 181 playing cards, 2 special action boards, and 2 double-sided player aids, and 1 rulebook. It is rated moderate complexity. The time scale will vary. Number of players is 2. It is low to medium suitability for solitaire, and the average playing time is 3 hours. So let's take a look inside and see what we get. All right, we have several card decks, red cubes, blue cubes, and 2 packs of dice, all sealed for freshness. Rulebook. Counter sheet, also sealed so they don't fall out. A couple of small mats. Some player aid cards. And the mounted map. So let's set up the map and take a closer look at the game. And here's a look at the mounted board that comes with the game. At first it's going to look a little confusing, but it does make perfect sense once you understand the flow of the game, and it's very logical how everything is laid out. You have 18 districts, and that's what all of these are that you're going to be battling for control of. They're going to have adjacencies, and that's what these connectors are for, to show you how they will connect. You have military, urban, and workers that are going to be 3 subsets of those. The top left, we have the military preparations track. We have the revolutionary unrest and the Tsar's prestige track on the left-hand side here. We've got the victory point track, as well as the opportunity point track at the bottom. Along the very bottom, we have the revolutionary opportunity pool, neutral opportunity pool, and the government opportunity pool. Then we have the 3 different eras broken down for you here: years of turmoil, Great War, and then the collapse into communism. On the right-hand side, we have the scoring tracks for the districts, organizations, world affairs, and the Duma that you will be keeping track of throughout the course of the game. This is where you're going to be placing your mobilization cubes, the red and the blue cubes, and you're going to be battling for control of each of these different districts, and that way you're also going to be using the connectors here to see where you can mobilize further from. But like I said, has a very logical flow once you get the feel for it. I know when the first time I looked at it, I said, wow, this is like Prelude to Excel. That's what it looked like. It looked like a spreadsheet set up out there. But once you understand how the gameplay goes, it definitely makes sense, like I said. And one of the things I do like about this, on top of all these different columns out here, you have this beautiful map underneath that really does add to drawing you into the political subject of the game. Next, we'll take a look at the player aids that come with the game. First up are the 2 player boards, one for the Central Committee and one for the Council of Ministers. You can see here that it gives you different actions you can take throughout the game and the cost for each of those. For like this one, for example, Revolutionary Fervor, 6 AP, go through the scoring sequence for a scoring track from Rule 5.0 of your choice, and then you will mark it as used once you are done. Same thing on the other side for the Council of Ministers. Great way to have this board in front of you to understand what it is you can do with the different action points that you'll have, and then keep track of whether you've done those or not throughout the game. Next, we have the player reference card, which gives you all of the steps that you'll need for different actions, such as scoring the Duma vote, growing extremism, end of game checks, end of turn, end of action round, and the scoring districts. And next to it, you will have the associated rule number. So that way, if you need to reference it, you can easily do so. That carries over onto the back of the card, giving us steps for using activity points, using opportunity points, performing a mobilization check, managing the cards, and creating an organization. Next, we'll take a look at the counter sheet that comes with the game, and be very careful when you pull this out of the wrapping. These will start falling out immediately. These are really well cut, as we've come to expect from Compass games. The counters in this game are all administrative counters. This is where you're going to be using these counters to keep track of different scoring levels on all the different tracks out there on the board. So as you would expect, not a lot of counters to be used in this one, contrary to what we see like in your standard war game. But same Compass quality, top notch as always. Next, we'll take a look at a few examples of the cards that come with the game. There are 4 different decks. The first 3 are the 3 eras: Years of Turmoil, Great War, and the Collapse. There are also key events cards which will be used from the opportunity pool. We'll get to that in a moment. The anatomy of the card is pretty straightforward. At the top, we have the red band and this symbol, which means this is for the revolutionary player. Over here, we have the blue band and the government symbol, which means it is for the government player. This one has both. It has the red and blue as well as both emblems, and that is a neutral card that can be used by either faction. At the top left, we have the scoring die. In this case, it's organizations. This one here is districts. The other 2 are district and organization as well. There are 2 other symbols that you'll see on the cards: Duma and World Affairs. At the top right is the era that the card will be played in, and I've got one under each of the eras that it is for. Underneath that, you'll see the activity points, or action points as a lot of people will call them. That is the number of activity points that you'll be able to use for different activities. It's also the point cost if you want to play the card while it's in the opportunity pool. Beneath that, you have the events, and that will tell you what it is you're going to be doing. And also over here, remains in play until the end of the turn is a special instruction, and for that card right there, that is the opportunity pool that will stay out for both players to be able to use in the opportunity pool. So that's kind of like a community card. Both sides can use it at any time. Then at the bottom, you'll have an historical snippet of the time period. And last, we'll take a look at the rulebook. This is a 20-page full-color book. Inside of the front cover, we have the table of contents listing out all the different rules and their associated page numbers. Little intro blurb, then we get into the listing of the game components, the game board, and how to read that. Then we jump right into the game sequence on page 4. That will explain to you all the steps in the game sequence: start of the game, the start of the turn, how you draw your cards, initiative, start of the action round, end of your action round, end of the turn, end of the game, and then we get into the cards, the anatomy and explanation of how you're going to be using your cards, how to read them, how to use them. Then we have the scoring die. Remember, we talked about that. We have 4 different types: Duma, districts, world affairs, and organizations. Then we have the scoring tracks with an explanation there. We also have text examples sprinkled throughout, as you can see here, and some notes that you will want to pay attention to. That'll give you an explanation of things that you want to pay attention to during each of the steps. Then we have the organization scoring track, scoring sequence, world affairs scoring track, scoring sequence for the Duma, districts, Duma, growing extremism roles, Duma session, Duma vote, and a long example here. Opportunity pool, mobilization checks. Opportunity pool is where we're talking about when we're looking at the cards. Take those cards, put them in the opportunity pool. That way they can be used by either player just by paying their cost. Activity points and how you can use them. District organizations, special actions, Government Council of Ministers, Revolutionary Central Committee, Revolutionary Unrest, military preparations, Red October. And we have all power to the Soviets, deploy the Revolutionary Vanguard, rally the workers, Tsar's prestige, Tsar abdication. And that was one of the other things we didn't mention before when we were looking at the cards, At the bottom left, there's a star and triangle. This indicates that the card is to be removed when the Tsar abdicates. So when the Tsar abdicates, that's when that card comes out. Then we adjust the collapse deck, form the provisional government. The world reacts, post-abdication changes, random districts. There's a card breakdown that starts on this page here, the card clarification, so you can get a little bit more information on the cards themselves. Rules only go up to page 16, so not a very long rule book. Designer notes, player strategy guide. Goes on for a couple pages to get you up and running. And then we are at the back of the rule book. And that is a look at everything you get inside of Prelude to Revolution, Russia's Descent into Anarchy, 1905 to 1917. This is a game designed by Mike Wilner and is published by Compass Games. Well, I know the original game, Prelude to Rebellion, is a well-received game. It has a lot of positive comments on it, but it's also on a piece of history that not a lot of people are familiar with. This one right here covers the Russian Revolution, and I think that's going to have a lot more eyes on it just because it is such a seminal piece of world history that a lot more people are going to check into this game. Hopefully, that will cause them to look at Prelude to Rebellion as well and give this series a lot more legs. That way they can continue on with other games and look at other revolutions throughout the course of human history using this system. The production quality is top-notch, as we've come to expect from Compass. Just really beautiful components. And like I said, the board seems a little confusing at first, just all these columns out there, but it makes perfect sense when you look at the board and you see how the logical flow of the game goes on that board, and you're vying for control of different areas. But this is the type of game I think that's going to take a few plays to get a feel for how to use your cards properly and when to strike and when to hold, and just utilize the action points in different ways. So that's one of the best parts about games like this, is you can explore it over and over again for the first, I don't know, half dozen times that you play this game until you get a real cohesive strategy with using the cards. But great topic to cover for this type of system, and I'm looking forward to checking this one out. It's a two-player game only, so there is no solitaire module to this. There's no solo AI, no solo bot. Maybe someone will come up with one at a later time, but this game requires 2 players, so just keep that in mind. You're going to need a partner to play with when you play this game. But great to see another historical board game coming out from Compass Games to complement all the war games that they do on a monthly basis. Well, I hope that helps you guys out if you've been curious about this one. If you have any comments or questions, post them down below. Thanks for tuning in, guys. See you next time.